Introduction to master planning. So we'll be going over all the design process that you may look at to make your master plan. So first we'll start with a definition of permaculture design from the designer's manual. Permaculture design is a system of assembling conceptual, material, and strategic components in a pattern which functions to benefit life in all its forms. It seeks to provide a sustainable and secure place for living things on this earth. Functional design sets out to achieve specific ends, and the prime direction for function is: every component of the design should function in many ways. Every essential function should be supported by many components. So this brings the concept of interconnectedness, the input, the output, the idea of no waste, and cycling energy, as we described today, nutrients, the building blocks of nature through systems in order to densify into what we would choose as our particular yield in our system. And then you'll be able to pick that different yield. Bill Mollison said that it was far better to train an owner-designer who can apply long-term residential management than to evolve a roving designer, a consultant, except as an aid to initial placement procedures and resource listings. So in this instance, sometimes it may be appropriate to have permaculture designers to help like commercial construction. So someone is going to make a commercial building, they need a designer to help that. That's a consultant. But if you're going to be the owner, operator of your business, a homeowner, it was better to train people to design their own homes than to have consultants in permaculture do designs for homeowners. Okay, so that was his an open letter that he wrote to permaculture teachers to try to describe. So we try to show both, but reasonably the more focus is to teach you to be able to do your own plan for your own home. If you want to do more of a commercial aspect of consulting in permaculture, that's targeted to more of a broad scale or commercial landscaping. So what is a master plan? Where does this word come from? Like most of the things we're going to find in permaculture, the words are not from permaculture. Bill went to all the disciplines and collected things together and created a concept of permaculture which would say cross disciplines. For this particular discipline, Bill worked at a university, and most universities have a master plan. This is the grounds, the buildings, the colleges, their particular colors, what building materials they would use to have the same style. So you go to a university and you see the buildings all having the same architectural style, landscaping feel, things of this nature. So that's used in architecture and engineering. So this term comes from there. A master plan is a plan that shows an overall development concept, and it can be included in urban design, landscaping, infrastructure, service provisions, circulation, both present and in future, and the use and the built form of your design. So that's going to basically encompass all of the things that when we make our final master plan design, we would see the access, the roads, we may see services such as electric, water, we would see drainage, we would see the landscaping, trees, we would have zonations where we may distinguish between a forest, a orchard, a food forest, and a garden, and even an open area that might be used for recreational activities. So we start to see how the plan is showing us the different zones of usage, and then how and what might be placed in those zones of usage. A plan really aids in communication. So who's going to be involved in the project, school, home? These are our key or stakeholders, the people that are involved. And then those people can discuss about a plan, and that alleviates arguments. We're talking about the plan, right? We're not arguing with each other. If we don't disagree, we can change the plan, agree to change the plan. But like, this is the plan we agreed on, and now it's not working out. What should we change on the plan? That alleviates a lot of conflict. An effective master plan describes and illustrates the proposed form of your design in 3 dimensions. It explains the method of developing a site. So that's going to be like a design brief. That might be a written summary of what am I going to do. I've written a description of what I plan to do. And illustrates, so that's our drawing, right? We're going to illustrate graphically what delivery strategies we're going to use to implement the project. So typically we'd also have an implementation plan. How am I going to go about doing what I said I was going to do? So I would like to have a farm, okay? But when? I may have to, in first phase, go back to work to save money, to purchase my property, right? And in the first year, I may only plant the fruit trees. It takes 5 years for them to grow. In the second phase, I may go back to work for another 3 to 5 years to come and build my home. At that point, I would have income from my trees to support me while I'm building the second phase. By third phase, I should have my home, expenses done, and I have income from my, say, yielding product, possibly an orchard. And then I'm into the more developed phase of my thing. So I can break it into smaller phases. And also from a concept of cash flow, I don't have to have all the money at one time. Okay? So these are things that we're going to explore. Typically, a master plan can address transportation, access, traffic, community facilities, what is needed. So if this is an education center, our Raktamachat master plan has to address students' needs, as well as teachers' needs, as well as the people that might take care of the grounds needs, homeowners' needs. These things are going to have different facilities for different usage. This classroom can be described for what its purpose is. Then we can specify what it would be made out of, the materials, what size it needs to be, what functions is it going to perform, right? So if I need to have lights, I need to have electrical points. I don't utilize water in the classroom, so we didn't put in any water service because it's not a function of the classroom, so these type of things. But if I wanted to do more like, I don't know, 8th grade science stuff where it might be nice to have a sink to wash up, but that would be a new function. We could then add that service. So this is what we're going to describe. A master plan is used in any building, municipality, from small villages to large metropolises. So it doesn't matter scale. So you can have a small plan or a large plan. I could have a master plan of a city development, a new city from scratch, as well as I could have a master plan for the garden redevelopment in the backyard of my parents. That can still service a plan. So plan is just the concept. What you're doing is what you're describing. Generally, it's required for large-scale changes. So when people have master plans, anytime we want to make a large-scale change, we may make a new plan and or a revision to the actual plan, such as housing developments, towns and city centers, regeneration projects, and town extensions. It is also important in places where certain environmental assets need protection. So we can see environmental asset plans fall under the master plan. I want to protect this national forest. So if there's going to be a new development of the town, extending the bounds, we may have a plan to service protection of a certain asset. Master plans are typically commissioned by landowners, house builders, developers, local authorities, and regeneration agencies. So if you're a consultant and you may want to do permaculture consultant, that would be the type of people that would ask for a plan to be produced for them. Then if I want them to pay me, I should also understand what they would like that to be like. What is that type of plan going to look like? That may be different than the plan that I have for my personal usage. Or if I wanted to have a grant, I decide I want to get a grant from the government. I'm going to have to maybe have a plan that meets the grant requirements. I'd have also a plan that for my specific personal requirements, and I might have a plan for my community's requirements, and that would all be from the same design brief. So once a plan is adopted, the next phase is implementation. So what is my concept? How am I going to do it? And now I need a plan on implementing that goal. So my plan, I want to invest in, support a community, an intentional community here at Raktamachat in order to have an education center. In order to do that, that was a great concept, but I needed help. So I contracted with Genesis International, which is a permaculture consulting company in the US. And I said, hey guys, I need help, right? This is my goal, but I've never run a permaculture education center. And I want to know from people that have had that experience and have worked on other master plans previously. So there was 5 teachers that worked as a team. How we may go about and what is needed. How big should the classroom be? What type of materials may we need? Is it acceptable to have benches like this? Because that would be not the traditional classroom. All right, so where's the boundaries of that traditional classroom and the permaculture acceptance? These are things. If I have to make a bungalow, how big? What if I made it each one 50 centimeters bigger? That would increase the internal area by 1/3. Just making that little decision, but I also have to pay for those materials. Is it really needed? Would be nice, but maybe not needed. So you have to make those decisions. What about the balcony size, right? How high off the ground? Does it need water provided to it and or not, right? Should we have air conditions because it's hot in the summer? Or can people survive? These are all decisions that you would make and think about in your master plan so that when it comes time to build it, you have thought about those things. So we can look at later Rock's master plan in more detail. Again, a consultant worked with me on that. We took 1 year of time together with 5 other planners to work on the document. It's like 80 pages long. It's specific to a school to design and build a educational center from day one. And then, so it gives a good outline. You're welcome to read it. You can have a copy of it. So each element of the master plan is a design system. So to help us make a large plan, we just break components into systems. So if I only have to describe this classroom, we could see how it would be manageable to describe this classroom as a system within the design. Then we could describe the sala. Even in the sala, we could break the sala into different zones. I could describe the kitchen as a part of the sala as part of Raktamachat, and then I show the placements of those elements. The nursery, I could go in, I describe the nursery, just describing a nursery by itself, and then the things that take place within the nursery. So within the nursery, right, we have an area for potting up. We have an area for seed saving, right? We have an area for making our potting mix. We have an area for our worms, right? These are the 4 functions that happen within what we describe as a nursery, and then we can see where that's laid out in relationship to the other elements. Today we could see where we stocked materials for our composting. Where was the composting area? These are where our map shows us these areas, and we describe in our brief their functions. And then we can see how we would move those in relationship to what we're doing. So if I was to describe a sound master plan design, so if I have a design, and I'm going to say this is pretty much a really good basis of what we're trying to achieve. Number 1, I'd like to think that my plan helps me to reduce my consumption, okay, and thus my need to earn. I don't need to earn as much money or work for people as much if I don't consume as much. So that's the first major thing. Does your plan help you to reduce your consumption? Next, I would hope that our plans regenerate the landscape. And what's really nice is permaculture's tools are so powerful that we can take, like I did with Raktamachat, a very degraded farm, and regenerate the landscape in 5 to 6 years. But within 5 years, for sure, Raktamachat looked really nice. Okay? The first few years, there's hardly any trees. It's really tough. It's dirt. The first year is just like dirt and little seedlings. It's not very nice. But the people that came in the beginning, which I still keep their picture, the pioneers, they really paid it forward. They went and took their knowledge and helped to get this where it looks like today. So we can do it in what is basically a short period of time. The beginning is not as nice. So, but we can take the most degraded farms and regenerate them back to full organic certification in only 5 years. We can provide sustainable products in the short and long term. Later, we're going to talk about in more details. I may have to do things in the beginning because I need cash flow. I need to pay bills. I need to have some money. So to get some quick cash flow, I may plant bananas and papayas. Why? Within 6 months, I have income. I can sell them. They're not the highest selling thing on the market, right? But I've got money in 6 months, right? That gets me to have cash while I'm waiting on my high-yielding fruit trees. I may have to wait up to 5-6 years for a mango to yield. In the meantime, between the mango trees, the young mango trees, I can get other cash crops. So that could be vegetables, fast fruiting trees, vegetables, these type of cash crops. I want to provide a unique or essential service for the region. Try not to copy just because this person does this, he's successful, and you do it. You go into the market, supply and demand, you may oversupply that. So try to go to the farmer's market and see what's missing, not what everybody else already sells. Yeah? So if you can have an essential service or a unique product. Also think about perishability. If I bring my truckload of tomatoes and I have to sell them today, or they all start to rot, I'm under a lot of pressure. But if I took my tomatoes and I made it into a nice pasta sauce and I canned that, I'm not under as much pressure to sell it. I could go 2 years. I'll sell what I sell, and what I don't, I bring home, right? This is a more same, still selling tomatoes, just selling them in a different form. So be a safe place to live. You want your farm or whatever yield you choose to be something that's not going to possibly hurt you. If I'm owning and I operate Raktamachat and I do things that can possibly hurt me and then I hurt myself, how can I work? How can I support my family? We almost, like in a concept, when you own your own business, you're self-insured. Do not try to do things that can put you out of business. I broke my arm, I can no longer work. I broke my leg because I'm doing something that can hurt myself. So be conscious about doing businesses or looking for a yield that doesn't require unsafe actions. Create a harmonious and healthy landscape. We don't really want to be in, again, different type of processing. We can process many things. We can make things on our farm. But if they have things that have dust or particulates and these type of things over a period of time, that may hurt my health, even though I could construe it as a natural product. So we want to have things that we don't need to wear a dust mask. We don't need to have special gloves. We're not using toxic or poisonous chemicals, okay? Things that will hurt us. We would exclude the usage of those things. A cooperative part and a rich source of information for a local region. Typically, permaculture concept would be open to outside viewing. Remember the thing that we had the earth in our principles. We would accept feedback, okay? So in this instance, people like the local villagers like to come, see what's going on here. They come see my mother and father-in-law, and they basically in the pros of visiting, but actually touring. And then my mother and father-in-law bring them around and show them the things we're doing and translate what's going on, because that's the way that their culture operates, right? So for sure my father-in-law and mother-in-law in this region are quite famous now. Everybody knows their name. And they don't refer to this as Raktamachat, they refer to it as Paul Sack's farm in Thai, because they see him as the owner, because that's the cultural way that works here, okay? This is achievable within 3 to 6 years, meaning within the 3rd year, I'm cash flow neutral, meaning that I'm not spending any more money. I've made my investment. I'm not really making any money, basically, right? But I'm not spending money. I've done my investment in the first 3 years. Hopefully, I have invested over 3 years, not all in 1 year. I did 1 year, 2nd year, 3rd year, right? And I could have been working half the year and say, easily I might have worked in a tourist industry, I might have worked in a seasonal industry, I make good money. Then I go to my farm, I work on my house, I work on my gardens, I work on planting trees, I go back to get some more money. I do that over 3 years. By the 3rd year, I have the things that I've been working on start to produce enough money for me to break even, right? By the 6th year, my fruit trees, if that's my yield, or the other business that you may have decided, maybe I'm going to do a yoga retreat, and I had to build the facilities and the gardens to be nice and pretty in the first 3 years, right? But by the 3rd year, I'm kind of breaking even, and hopefully by the 6th year, I'm doing all right. I may have even been able to hire a teacher that helps me and or works, and then I can move into a more managerial position or something like that. So this is ideally what we're looking for, okay? An idealized concept.